Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Super glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. As you know, Jim Garrity is away, and here in his place once again is Scot Bertram, the general manager of WRFH, Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 on the campus of Hillsdale College, where he also lectures in journalism, directs the Hillsdale College Podcast Network, and hosts the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, among many others. And Scott, great to have you with us again.
Hello, Greg. Good to be back.
Great to have you again. As teased yesterday, Scott will be giving us a brief review of the Naked Gun movie. But today we're also going to be talking about a number of things. Jim Acosta is back in the news, and it's never for a good reason. He's not at CNN. He's got his own little media deal now. And yesterday he interviewed the bot of a teenager killed at Parkland High School in that mass shooting back in 2018. We're going to talk about a lot of the ethical ramifications of that. We'll also talk about how the Democratic Party is more openly embracing socialism, as Elizabeth Warren openly endorses Zohran Mamdani, and what that means for the larger political picture. And Democrats smacked in the face with reality. Happens a lot. So it's good to see policy-wise that sometimes they're seeing reality too.
There are effects for every cause. There are outputs for every input, and occasionally they actually pop up in inopportune places for politicians.
Yes. Gavin Newsom, once again, realizing that just not liking Trump is not enough to get the job done out there. He doesn't like to spend a lot of time on policy, and it shows because the performative policies are blowing up in their face.
Yeah, but he's a great podcast guest, isn't he? I mean, come on, give him some credit.
All right. Well, we'll get to all that in just a second. But guys, wouldn't you like to look at least a little bit younger? Yeah, we're getting up there. Maybe get a few more compliments about how you look, or just feel more confident when you look in the mirror. And that's exactly what Caldera Lab is here for. Their high-performance skincare is designed specifically for men. It's simple, which guys love. Effective, of course, is important, and it's backed by science. In fact, in a consumer study, 100% of men said their skin looked smoother and healthier. 96.9%, that's pretty precise, noticed improved hydration and texture, and 93.8% reported a more youthful appearance. As I've said, I love the cleanser. There's going to be lots of other products that you can try there, and I'm going to be trying as well. Big fan of the cleanser. Makes my skin clean. It's fresh. Just feels good, and it doesn't have any weird smells. So I love that. So upgrade your skincare with Caldera Lab. It's easy, it's effective, and it's made for men. Skip the drugstore and try it for yourself. Visit calderalab.com/3ml and use the code 3ml for 20% off your first order. Again, that's calderalab.com/3ml with the code 3ml for 20% off. All right, Scott, on to our good martini. And as we just said, it comes to us from California, and what Gavin Newsom and the other Democrats should have known, but politics got in their way, and now reality is biting back. This is from Politico. Alex Nieves with the story. California Governor Gavin Newsom spent the last 4 years provoking the big oil boogeyman, and now it's haunting him. Newsom's casting of big oil as the villain behind the state's perpetually high fuel prices signaled the industry's waning influence in Sacramento, but the plot took a dramatic turn for the governor and his party when 2 refineries in the state announced closure plans. Last month, Newsom said, quote, refineries all across the globe are struggling as he unveiled a suite of proposals to keep refineries solvent, including holding talks with potential buyers and offering incentives to boost in-state oil drilling. Quote, we've got some challenges, and so just require some new considerations. Politico says the about face is emblematic of the Democrats' course correction on cost of living issues in the wake of the presidential election and provides a real-time demonstration of the political risks of pursuing an aggressive transition away from fossil fuels. Quote, the reality is if those refineries close and we have increased gas prices, it's going to be a problem for everybody, said veteran California Democratic consultant Andrew Acosta, not just Gavin Newsom, but every Democrat running for office. And Scott, it makes me think of that clip that was out a few months ago from the show Landman. Mm-hmm. Where Billy Bob Thornton's out there in the wilderness, basically telling this kind of environmentally enlightened person about what the realities are in terms of everything we buy pretty much has petroleum in it. Even if you wanted to switch away, it would take decades and decades and decades. And so this whole idea of Newsom and Biden and everybody else that, we'll just take a decade to get rid of the internal combustion engine and just move away from fossil fuels entirely. It's pie in the sky, and it's finally dawning on them that it was never based in reality.
Even California. I am, I guess, surprised by how high a percentage of California vehicles now are EV hybrid. Among new automobile sales in California, it's about 40% that are EV or hybrid in some way, shape, or form, and about 1.3 million vehicles overall registered are EVs alone, not including hybrids. That's a lot. And even California can't make this work without sufficient supplies of energy and oil and refineries. And it should not be a surprise. We live and die on energy, as the landman example sort of tells us. And that's why the Trump strategy on energy has been so successful, I think. Cheap energy powers everything. And California's is afraid they'll find out what happens when energy is very expensive for everyone. It's things like this that make me at least semi-curious if California actually follows through on their threat to match Texas's redistricting with their own redistricting, which, by the way, would take a lot. That have to repeal a law, go back to voters, but it could happen. I do wonder if they are overplaying their hand in that things like this, energy getting expensive, the mismanagement of the wildfires, not just the wildfires, but the fires in Malibu and the cities out there, and the lack of rebuilding since that occurred, and people sort of seeing what liberal governance looks like if they are over projecting their possible support in various areas of California, because people are beginning to feel what it's like when policies have consequences. Same thing very quickly in Illinois, where 5-6 years ago, a lot of green energy mandates went into effect, and manufacturers warned and others warned, hey, it's going to drive up prices. It's going to drive up prices. This summer, there's stories all over the place about people getting their energy bills and finding that $100 and $120 more expensive than it was a couple of years ago, and they're freaking out, and they were warned. Everyone was warned. There are consequences for various activities and consequences for policies, and people find it out and then, well, sometimes vote accordingly.
Well, one of my favorite Gavin Newsom moments in a nutshell was a couple of years ago when he, of course, was pushing the EV mandate. We're gonna make it pretty much all EV within a decade. You're gonna save so much money on gas. This is gonna be great. And then they had the rolling blackouts, and the first order was, as long as this is happening, let's not plug in the EVs. And so you're pretty much stuck without transportation or power at all in some cases, depending on how the blackouts rolled along. So it should have been a clue then. Maybe they're getting a little bit more of a clue now. But,
and by the way, when it comes to cheap energy, too, there's celebration in some quarters on the left among the Greens when nuclear plants were shut down. And now what do we find out? Hey, those things are pretty effective. They made a lot of energy. We need them. And they're coming back online, at least one in Michigan. The Palisades power plant, which was shut down a couple of years ago, is now deep into the steps of actually powering back up. So maybe that's not so bad either.
Yeah, lefty reimagining is usually just running headlong into reality. And most of their reimagining has already happened, as we'll talk about in the second Martini, and flopped miserably. California residents, I realize the ones that are totally fed up with Gavin Newsom have probably already left California. But when you think about the massive homelessness problem, the poop on the streets, it's sky high, was it 13% state tax out there? If you do have an internal combustion engine, you easily have the highest gas prices in the country, at least in the contiguous 48 states. And at its worst, I think it was up to like $7-8, but it's always way more than the rest of the country. It's amazing that even people who are pretty dyed-in-the-wool blue voters don't get fed up with this compilation of horribleness that they have to deal with on a daily basis.
I think for some, it's the price of doing business, of living in a beautiful state. I've heard that, like, oh, yeah, but it's so pretty out here. Well, I guess there's a price to pay for that.
Yeah, a steep price to pay for a lot of people out there, unfortunately. So, all right, well, let's talk about another fantastic new sponsor, and that is Dose. More than 30% of Americans have a sluggish liver, and that's a problem that often goes undetected until the very last minute. And Dose is on a mission to educate all of us on why it's so important to maintain your liver health, and it's created an incredible product to help you do just that. It's called Dose for Your Liver, and it was formulated to cleanse your liver of unwanted elements, aid digestion, and maintain your body's filter. In a double-blind study, Dose for Your Liver lowered liver enzyme levels by 50% for more than 86% of participants. So support your health with Dose Daily. Save 25% on your first month when you subscribe at dosedaily.co/3ml or enter the code 3ml at checkout. Please note the 25% discount applies only to subscription orders, not one-time purchases. You can also cancel anytime with no hassle. That's dosedaily.co/3ml to get 25% off your first monthly subscription with the code 3ml. All right, Scott, on to our second martini now, and definitely a bad martini. You know, a lot of Democrats, especially before the New York City mayoral primary, were kind of hedging their bets on Zohran Mamdani. Nobody really wanted Andrew Cuomo back, but Mamdani's comments, from defunding the police to directly quoting Karl Marx about each according to their ability and each according to their need, and all this stuff, his anti-private property views, most Democrats saw that as a bridge too far until he won, and won handily. And the polls still look good for Mamdani. And so the unease with Mamdani seemed to be clearly that they didn't know that he could win and that he might be a drag on future Democrats. But now that he seems to be in pretty good shape in New York City, they're cozying up to him. He's on Capitol Hill a few weeks ago. A lot of people wanted their picture with him. Now he's getting flat out endorsements from the likes of Elizabeth Warren, who was standing right alongside of him yesterday, and basically endorsing his socialist agenda, not only for this particular race, but as the future of the Democratic Party.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable, and here are my plans, real plans, plans to deliver on childcare, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver, we're going to experiment, we're going to try things on groceries. That is the Democratic message.
That's the Democratic message. So the reporter, good question here, follows up and makes it very clear what Elizabeth Warren thinks.
Is this what the party should look like?
Yes.
The Democratic Party moving forward?
You bet.
You bet. We are going to embrace this. And Scott, it's almost like they're breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's more on the far left than some in the party, but the party's been drifting pretty hard left for a long time now. And again, I don't think it was the ideas of Zohran Mamdani that they were so upset with. It was just about electability. And once he seems more electable, they're going to go along with it. What do you make of that? And just the way that Mamdani's going about this and the way that the Democrats are approaching this issue?
There's a little bit of a split, I guess, among Democrats, because there's a wing that sort of says we just need to be louder and fight harder. And maybe you could classify these Warren comments as another strategy, which is, well, changing strategies, right? Embracing some of the socialist, communist tendencies of the candidate for New York mayor, talking about, trying things with groceries, city-owned grocery stores, which don't work, but proven over and over again. And affordability, this idea, I think we even talked about this, affordability in New York City, the lowest income voters didn't choose Mamdani. They chose someone else. It was the upper income people that really drove Mamdani's victory in New York City. So who are we making it affordable for? More affordable for those who need it the most, or more affordable for those who are comfortable but just wish that things were slightly less expensive, perhaps, in certain places? I think people look and think the policies likely won't work for those who need the most help in New York City. There's an interesting NBC piece 2 days ago now, I think, about some of the Mamdani's advisors saying, don't become Brandon Johnson, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is not an avowed socialist, but is close enough in terms of policy prescriptions, also as a stooge of the labor unions in Chicago, the teachers union especially. And he's got in a lot of trouble. Actually, fresh off the printer this morning, Greg, the new public opinion poll for Brandon Johnson in Chicago, overall favorability at 21%.
Ooh.
Overall, and yet you say, ooh, because that's an improvement for
yes,
Brandon
it
Johnson.
is.
So
Considerably.
Congratulations to him. Overall unfavorable at 72%. And those who say they have a strong unfavorable opinion, is a majority of voters at 55%. So that's where Brandon Johnson finds himself right now. And he has made a lot of enemies. He's not friendly with J.B. Pritzker, the governor and future presidential candidate. He has made enemies even among some of the more progressive city council members in Chicago. There are massive monetary issues in Chicago, too. The city's got a $1.1 billion deficit for next year. Chicago public schools have a $250 million deficit for the next fiscal year. This is what Mamdani wants to avoid, because the answer now is Brandon Johnson literally going to the press and listing things he wants to tax. Workers. He wants a head tax, so a tax on every worker in Chicago. He wants to tax congestion, liquor, restaurant meals, bottled water, checkout bags, sports betting. He also wants to have a voluntary tax on hospitals, churches, and universities operating inside the city of Chicago. When your policies drive your municipality, your city, into extreme financial difficulty, those are the options. And so I think Mamdani wants to, or at least his advisors are saying, hey, let's try to avoid those types of things. Brandon Johnson is not popular. Brandon Johnson likely is heading to defeat in a potential reelection bid. Brandon Johnson literally listing off various things, random things to potentially tax in the city of Chicago. They don't want to go that direction. And yet many big city mayors who are espousing policies similar to that of Mamdani, that's exactly where they find themselves very quickly.
What do you make of the Democrats latching on to the word affordability? I think most people remember that the 9% inflation happened on Joe Biden's watch, while those same Democrats denied that it was a problem, mind you. There was, of course, that infamous chart that the Democrats tweeted out about a week or two ago where they're like, oh, it's Donald Trump's America with the record price of groceries, when it's obvious that the vast majority of the climb happened during Joe Biden's presidency. And so I don't think Americans have that short of a memory. And if their solution, their plan to get to affordability, is just government control of everything, you might get cheap groceries for a little while until there's nothing left on the shelves, which is what you get in communist countries.
That's exactly where I was going. So affordability means three things in this case. It means subsidies. Government subsidies, so it's transferring money, transferring wealth. It means price controls. Certainly, okay, you can only charge. Well, I mean, New York City certainly, rent control is an example of that, but price controls on almost everything. I hate to go back to Illinois, but I know things. State Farm just announced like a 29% increase in home insurance rates in Illinois, and the response by J.B. Pritzker and Illinois Democrats is, maybe we should kind of take over that industry. Maybe we should tell State Farm exactly the price they can charge for homeowners insurance. So you're gonna have price controls. And then, as you point out, you're going to have scarcity. One way to make things more affordable is you can't buy them anymore. They're not available whatsoever. You don't have to pay anything because you can't get it for any price whatsoever. They like the word. They think it's effective, but I don't think they know exactly how to make it happen.
No, and they'll just stay as vague as possible because they know their means of getting there, which won't actually get you there, is going to be horrifically unpopular. But it's right that you go back to Illinois because they follow this exact same pattern as New York, as California, especially because they've got huge problems with their insurance companies out there as well. And it's because they keep running themselves into this same problem with policies that these insurance companies are saying, look, if you're going to do this, we've got to charge through the roof. And then the politicians pretend that the insurance companies are the bad guys. On and on it goes. Rinse and repeat. All right, let's talk about BetterHelp, because if you end up voting for Zohran Mamdani or some of these other people, you're going to need a lot of it. And this is an ad for BetterHelp. And these days, it feels like there's advice for everything, whether it's cold plunges for your physical health, gratitude journals, giving up your screens for a while. But how do you know what actually works for you? Well, using trusted resources and talking to live therapists can perhaps get you personalized recommendations and help you break through that noise. And if that sounds like it's what you need right now, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, try BetterHelp, because with more than 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served more than 5 million people around the world. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on more than 1.7 million client reviews. It's also convenient. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button. helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. And as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/3ml. That's better, HELP.com/3ml. All right, Scott, on to our crazy martini now. And it's been a while since most of us paid any attention to Jim Acosta since he left CNN, but especially since really the end of the first Trump administration, where he preened and posed and
he pays enough attention to himself for all of us. Yes. He takes care of it. It's okay.
Exactly. So trying to basically start a fight with Trump or whoever was at the podium on any given day at the White House. But now he's doing his Substack thing. He's got his own podcast. And he gained more attention for himself last night, which is what I'm sure the goal was. And the fact that we're talking about it on some level, even though we're going to be ripping him stem from stern, probably feeds his ego a little bit. But he held an interview with an AI version, so basically a bot, of a Parkland High School student from Florida who was murdered in February of 2018 in order to push the gun control agenda. Now, Acosta did not create this bot. This kid's parents created this bot, which is twisted on a whole other level. This kid's name was Joaquin Oliver. And here is a clip of Acosta, quote unquote, interviewing Joaquin Oliver.
I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
Scott, this is so dystopian on so many different levels. The fact that Acosta is treating this like an actual interview of the teenager who died 7 years ago now. The parents who are putting this out there as part of a gun control agenda. I mean, if you want to put your child's face out there, I guess you could do that. Other parents have done that. But to act like this is what this person is really thinking and doing from the afterlife is just twisted on a number of different levels. And I certainly hope it's not the future of journalism, but I have a feeling we haven't seen the end of this.
Yeah, let's talk about the grossness of it first. It is, I've seen technology now where you enter a picture of a loved one and AI is able to animate that into like a short film, like a little movie. So pre-camcorder days, you can have a picture of from 1960 something, you and your mom, who perhaps has passed away, and now you can see your mom giving you a hug, which, man, just I very uncomfortable with all that. It is so easy to get sucked into a hole, this alternate fake reality that you're more comfortable in than dealing with the real world. Stories of people who are continuing relationships with dead loved ones through AI technology and are stuck. I mean, we just talked about mental health, man. There's a whole world about to open with AI technology and what they can do to us, literally to us. So that's one level that you sort of get stuck inside this loop that you can't escape from, and trying to bring back this person, this loved one in some way, shape, or form. And now to put it out for public consumption in an interview with Jim Acosta, this is a nightmare journalistically, right? To sort of fake and pretend like it's some sort of real interview. For Acosta, it's perfect because this, Greg, is the ultimate echo chamber. It's AI technology. It only reacts to the input you give it. You can make it say anything that you want with the right inputs. And trying to pretend and say that, oh, this is what he would have said if he were still with us today, and then taking that seriously. These are the same people who are so concerned about deep fakes and cheap fakes, and people will see something and not know if it's real or not. And bringing out an AI, not a hologram, but AI representation of this person, and pretending to have the serious conversation. It's a total nightmare. It's the ultimate in fake news, right? You're presenting an interview with an AI generated person having AI generated thoughts as if it's some sort of real thing and representative of what that person might or might not have said. Totally gross and totally unacceptable from a journalistic perspective.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. And like you said, you don't know what this kid would have thought about anything at this point. Maybe he would have agreed with his parents, maybe not. They're basically programming what he's going to say here. And Acosta, like you said, is basically feeding him where Acosta wants the conversation to go. And so you could easily have, as the technology improves over time, have people who believed exactly the opposite, but you can trot them out and have them commenting falsely about what they would have really thought about that issue. I mean, you could have a Democrat trotting out Reagan. You could have a Republican trotting out some Democratic president and having them say nothing that they would have actually said in their actual life. I'll tell you who was at the cutting edge of this in a smart way. Robin Williams, before he died, basically said in legal papers, you can't use my image, you can't use my voice, you can't do anything that artificially creates something that I didn't actually do. And I think all of us are going to end up having to do something like that sooner rather than later.
It's a whole new definition for name, image, and likeness. Not when it comes to college athletes, but for your own name, image, and likeness. Don't make me say stuff I didn't believe after I'm dead. Like, you have to write that in your will now.
Yes, exactly. All right, before we exit, real quick, Scott mentioned yesterday that last night he was going to go see the new Naked Gun starring Liam Neeson as the son of Frank Drebin, who, of course, was classically played by Leslie Nielsen. What'd you think?
What did I think? It exceeded my admittedly very low expectations, but I thought it was nowhere near as good as some of the reviews you might have seen out there, really praising it as a high-quality comedy. It was in the middle. I think that it was the right recipe with the wrong ingredients, meaning the new filmmakers understood the assignment. They knew the shape the movie should have and how it should move and where it should go. The jokes just aren't good enough to carry the day for me. And something I was worried about from the trailers make it seem like a very dark movie, like literally a dark movie. And it is. Like, it's oddly, very dimly lit, a lot of shadows. If you remember the Naked Gun movies, everything was California bright, like sunshine. The whole baseball scene, of course, being outdoors at a baseball park. It's all very indoors and shadowy, and the tone is not quite right. Liam Neeson's okay, decent. Someone said in writing about this film, one difference is when Leslie Nielsen, his face was this comic instrument, even if the rest of him was deadpan. And that aspect is kind of missing here with Liam Neeson playing that role. There are good moments, there are laugh moments. My particular favorite is one where I won't spoil the joke, but it's one where Frank Drebin Jr. is going to watch some security footage that has been caught at a bar, and something happened. It's very funny. So there are funny moments. I don't doubt. I'm a giant Airplane Zaz fan. I think Airplane has an argument as being perhaps one of the great comedies of all time. Love Naked Gun. So my standard might be a bit high, but I thought that this was probably not even as good as 33 1/3, which is kind of a middling entry into that series, and this was probably somewhere near that, but not quite as good. It's okay. You'll laugh a little. I don't think it doesn't embarrass the franchise. I wouldn't say that, but it's not as good as some of these great reviews that I've been seeing, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. That should give folks some good insights on whether to put the money down at the theater, maybe wait for it to come out on.
By the way, I'm all for more comedy. Like, Hollywood stopped making comedy, so I'm trying not to rag on it too badly, because at least there's a funny movie in theaters, but I do wish it were a bit better.
Much more to talk about tomorrow, I have no doubt. Scott, thank you for being here today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Greg.
Scot Bertram is the general manager of WRFH, Radio Free Hillsdale, on the campus of Hillsdale College, 101.7 FM. He's also the director of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network, host of the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, and, of course, the co-host of Wasn't That Special? 50 Years of Saturday Night Live. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please be sure to subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. We'd love to have them listening. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch Podcast. Follow us all on X. Scott is at Scot Bertram. 1T in Scott. Jim, of course, at Jim Garrity. I'm at Greg Columbus. Have a terrific Tuesday. Join us again Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.